The mysterious fleet. The Galactic Empire had ruled the galaxy for centuries, its power and might unmatched. No force had ever come close to challenging its authority. The Empire's military was vast, its fleets stretched across star systems, and its influence reached the farthest corners of space. To the Empire, no one could pose a threat, until now. It all began on a quiet day, far from the Empire's heart, in the outer rim of the galaxy. Imperial Command detected a strange signal. At first, it seemed like a simple malfunction, a glitch in the sensor systems. But as the signal grew stronger, something shifted in the air. The Empire's most experienced officers, those who had seen countless battles, could feel it too. A feeling of unease, as if something unseen was moving closer. General Vanter, one of the Empire's top strategists, sat in his command room on the Imperial flagship, Dreadfire. He had been briefed on the mysterious signal, but like many others, he dismissed it as a minor anomaly. That was until the signal grew more distinct. The sound was like a whisper, growing louder with each passing moment. His eyes narrowed, his hand gripping the armrest of his chair. "Report," he commanded sharply. A young officer at the sensor's console looked up, his face pale. "Sir, the signal's intensity is increasing. It's coming from beyond the known galaxy, in the outermost regions. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered." Vanter stood up, his eyes fixed on the holographic star map that spread across the room. His thoughts raced. Nothing in the galaxy could hide from the Empire's sensors. Nothing. Not for long, anyway. So what could this be? "Track it," he ordered. As the officers worked, trying to make sense of the signal, the ship's engines hummed gently, and the tension in the room built. For the first time in years, Vanter felt a flicker of doubt. What if this was something, or someone, he didn't understand? Hours passed, and the unknown signal grew stronger. Vanter paced back and forth, his mind running wild with possibilities. Could this be an attack? But there had been no sign of rebellion, no whispers of a new enemy. The galaxy had been at peace, or so it seemed. "General, the signal has become more focused. It's almost like it's targeting us," said a voice from the console. Vanter froze. "Targeting us? What do you mean?" he asked, his voice betraying the unease he felt. The officer hesitated, then pointed at the screen. "It's almost as if it's following us. We can't shake it off." Vanter's heart skipped a beat. An enemy fleet? No, that couldn't be right. The Empire was too powerful, too dominant. No one could get this close without being detected long before. "Sir, we've confirmed it," another officer said, her voice trembling. "The signal is coming from human ships." The room went silent. General Vanter's eyes widened in disbelief. Human ships. The human colonies had been wiped out generations ago, their resistance crushed under the weight of the Empire's power. The very thought of a human fleet surviving in the depths of space seemed impossible. "Impossible," Vanter muttered under his breath. "Humans are gone. There's no way they could have built a fleet this powerful." His thoughts were interrupted by another officer, this time with a more urgent tone. "Sir, the ships are coming closer. They've entered our sensor range. There are dozens of them, all heavily armed, and they're not showing up on any known Imperial databases." Vanter's pulse quickened. He rushed to the command console and looked at the screen. Hundreds of ships, all clustered together, appeared in the distance, dark, sleek, and unlike anything he had ever seen. They seemed almost alive, as though they were designed for something more than just combat. They were made to send a message. The Empire had never seen anything like this before. They had underestimated the humans for too long. The idea that they had built a fleet capable of challenging the might of the Empire was unthinkable. "Get me a direct line to the fleet commander," Vanter barked, his voice cold and steady. "I want to know who's behind this." The officer on the comms nodded and began working quickly. Meanwhile, Vanter could not tear his eyes away from the ships on the screen. It was hard to believe they were human. These ships looked too advanced, too precise. After a few moments, a calm voice came through the communication line. "This is Admiral Carter of the Terran Fleet. We come in peace, but we are prepared to fight if necessary." Vanter's mind raced. These humans were no longer the weak, broken people he remembered. They had returned, not just to survive, but to challenge the Empire itself. "Prepare the fleet," Vanter ordered. "We can't let them get any closer." But as he said it, he knew deep down that the Empire was no longer the undisputed power of the galaxy. The humans had returned, and they were not the same as before. The encounter. The mysterious human fleet drew closer with each passing hour. General Vanter stood in the command room of the Dreadfire, his face etched with anxiety. He had never been so uncertain in his life. Everything about this situation was wrong. The fleet that had appeared out of nowhere, the strange energy signature, the unrecognizable ships. It didn't make sense. "General, we're within firing range of the human fleet," an officer reported, her voice tense. "We've raised shields and are awaiting further orders." Vanter nodded grimly. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing on him. The Empire had always been in control, but this was different. A fleet of unknown humans was challenging their supremacy, and he wasn't sure how to respond. The Empire's reputation had been built on overwhelming force, but now, for the first time in centuries, it seemed there was an adversary that might match them. "Activate all weapons," Vanter commanded. "We won't be caught off guard. If they want to fight, they'll get one." The officers around him moved quickly, readying the Dreadfire's immense weaponry. The flagship of the Empire was a fortress in space, armed with enough firepower to obliterate any fleet foolish enough to challenge it. The humans, whoever they were, would soon learn just how powerful the Empire could be. But even as the preparations continued, a strange sense of hesitation lingered in the air. The human fleet was vast, more than Vanter had expected. And there was something unsettling about the silence that had surrounded them ever since their arrival. It was as if they were waiting for something, or perhaps preparing. "Admiral Carter is hailing us again." The officer at the comms station spoke. "Shall we answer?" Vanter took a deep breath, suppressing the nervousness that was creeping up on him. He wasn't sure if he was ready to hear what these humans had to say. But he had no choice. If they were going to fight, he needed to understand what kind of enemy he was dealing with. "Put them through," Vanter ordered. The screen flickered, and a sharp image of a human officer appeared. The man looked calm, but his eyes held a fire that Vanter couldn't ignore. The uniform was simple, but the insignia on his chest told a story that Vanter had never expected to see again, a symbol of humanity's past. "This is Admiral Carter," the human officer said, his voice strong. "General Vanter, we come not to conquer, but to reclaim what was once ours. The galaxy has been under your control for far too long. We are here to change that." Vanter's jaw tightened. The audacity of these humans. Reclaim. What were they talking about? The last remnants of human civilization had been wiped out long ago. The Empire had erased every trace of them. And now, these humans were somehow back and willing to challenge the galaxy's most powerful force. Vanter could feel the pressure rising. He was staring down a threat he had no understanding of. "Reclaim what?" Vanter asked, his voice cold but curious. "You are nothing but a remnant of a failed species. The Empire is the ruler of this galaxy. You have no place here." Admiral Carter's expression remained unchanged, but there was something unsettling in his gaze, a certainty, an unspoken confidence. "We're not just a remnant, General. We've rebuilt. We've evolved. We've been hiding, yes, but we're no longer weak. We have power, and we intend to use it." The words hit Vanter like a cold wave. Rebuilt? Evolved. The Empire had always believed humanity was finished, gone, wiped out. But this fleet, it was different. It was strong, capable, organized. They weren't the fragile humans he remembered. They had changed, and that change was something the Empire had never anticipated. Vanter clenched his fists. If these humans were truly capable of what they were claiming, they could become a serious threat. But he couldn't show weakness, not now. The Empire's reputation had to be upheld. "Leave now, or we will destroy you," Vanter said, his voice hard as steel. But Admiral Carter did not flinch. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, as if considering the offer. Then he spoke again, his voice calm but unwavering. "We do not seek destruction, General, but we will not leave without a fight. The galaxy belongs to all of us, and it's time for a new order." The comms went silent. The threat was clear. Vanter's heart raced as he realized the gravity of the situation. For the first time in his life, the Empire was facing a true challenge, not from an alien species, but from humanity itself. The galaxy that had once seemed so secure under the Empire's rule was suddenly teetering on the edge of chaos. As the human fleet loomed closer, Vanter knew that the coming battle would define the fate of the galaxy. The calm of space had shattered, replaced by the tension of an impending conflict. "Prepare for battle," Vanter ordered. "We will show these humans the power of the Empire." But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that things were not going to go as he expected. The Empire's fury. The tension in the Dreadfire's command room was palpable as General Vanter watched the screens flicker, displaying the approaching human fleet. His thoughts were a whirlwind. On one hand, he had never anticipated that humanity, the species his empire had eradicated centuries ago, could return in such a powerful form. On the other, the notion of these mere humans challenging the Empire was an insult, and Vanter was determined not to let them stand. "Activate the forward turrets," Vanter ordered, his voice cold as steel. "Prepare the fleet for full engagement. Let's show them who rules this galaxy." His officers moved swiftly, tapping commands into their consoles, and soon the Dreadfire was humming with activity. All around the flagship, the other Imperial warships followed suit, their massive weapons systems coming online with a deadly energy. The Empire's fleet was one of the most fearsome in the galaxy, equipped with technology far ahead of anything humanity had ever produced. The power of their lasers and plasma cannons was unmatched, and the Empire's shields were designed to withstand even the strongest of attacks. Yet, as the fleet readied for battle, Vanter couldn't shake the feeling of unease. His mind kept returning to Admiral Carter's words. "We've rebuilt, we've evolved." What did that mean? How had they managed to survive? And how had they become so strong? On the surface, Vanter tried to maintain his composure, but his mind raced. The Empire had crushed the remnants of humanity decades ago. There had been no sign of resistance, no trace of them for centuries. The humans had been forgotten, reduced to mere whispers in the history books. Yet now, they were back, not as an insignificant species, but as a force that could challenge the Empire's supremacy. The Dreadfire's sensors flashed, and the human fleet loomed larger on the view screen. It was a sight to behold, ships that were sleek and deadly, their hulls painted with strange, unfamiliar insignia. The human fleet was far more organized than Vanter had expected. It was clear that they had the same level of tactical discipline that the Empire's finest forces exhibited. As Vanter stared at the approaching enemy, a chilling thought crossed his mind. Perhaps humanity hadn't just survived. They had thrived in secret, growing stronger, learning new ways to fight, to adapt. And now, they were here, ready to take back what they believed was theirs. His mind snapped back to the present as an officer raised her voice. "General, the human fleet is sending a transmission. They want to speak again." Vanter hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Put them through." The screen flickered once again, and Admiral Carter's face appeared, his expression calm yet resolute. The human leader had not changed his tone one bit, despite the looming threat of war. "We didn't want this, General," Carter said, his voice even. "But we are not going to back down. The galaxy has been under the Empire's control for far too long, and we are not your subjects. We will fight for our place in this universe." Vanter clenched his fists, his frustration mounting. "You've made a grave mistake, Admiral. You've miscalculated the power of the Empire. You will regret this." Admiral Carter's eyes remained steady, unwavering. "We are prepared, General. This battle will decide the future of the galaxy." Without another word, the transmission ended, and the screen went dark. Vanter's heart pounded in his chest. The humans were determined, that much was clear. But they couldn't possibly stand against the full might of the Empire. They were no match for the sheer firepower and resources the Empire possessed. He would crush them, and this threat would be eliminated, once and for all. "Target the human flagship," Vanter ordered, his voice cold. "Prepare to fire." The Dreadfire locked its weapons on the largest ship in the human fleet, a massive vessel that seemed to be their command center. Vanter's finger hovered over the button that would send a deadly volley of plasma bolts toward the target. But just before he gave the command, another officer spoke up, her voice filled with alarm. "General, the human fleet is moving into formation." Vanter looked up in confusion. The human ships were changing positions, forming a tight, organized group around their flagship. It was as though they were preparing for a battle. No, they were preparing to fight back. This wasn't going to be a simple engagement. The humans were not intimidated. "Open fire," Vanter bellowed. The weapons systems of the Dreadfire roared to life, unleashing a torrent of deadly energy toward the human fleet. The blast was massive, lighting up the darkness of space as it shot toward the target. But then something strange happened. The human fleet didn't scatter. Instead, they responded with remarkable precision, launching counterattacks of their own. Their ships moved with an agility and grace that Vanter hadn't expected. The Empire's lasers missed their targets again and again, their shots deflected by what appeared to be energy shields, shields that were unlike anything the Empire had ever seen before. "What are they using?" an officer muttered, confusion evident in her voice. "It doesn't matter," Vanter growled. "Increase firepower. Target their smaller ships." But as the battle raged on, the Empire's advantage began to slip away. The human fleet was proving to be far more capable than anticipated. Their tactics were different, more unpredictable, and they seemed to be using technology that could block or deflect the Empire's attacks. For the first time in a long while, General Vanter felt the sting of doubt. The humans were not going to be easily defeated, and he couldn't help but wonder, how had they become so strong? The unseen weapon. General Vanter's mind raced as his fleet tried to adjust to the unexpected resistance. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were outmaneuvering and outthinking them at every turn. The Empire's once indomitable might was being chipped away, piece by piece. Vanter had seen many battles, but this one felt different. It felt like the humans had prepared for this moment, as if they knew exactly how to counter every move the Empire made. "Target their secondary ships," Vanter barked, his voice filled with frustration. "We need to break their formation. Divide and conquer." The massive energy cannons of the Dreadfire roared again, sending plasma bolts toward a smaller human vessel, one that had been darting in and out of the attack zone. It was fast, too fast. The plasma bolts missed by mere meters, and the human ship seemed to shimmer, its hull flickering for a moment before disappearing behind a cloud of debris. "What in the galaxy?" an officer stammered. "They're using some sort of cloaking technology. We can't see them." Vanter's eyes narrowed. Cloaking technology. The Empire had long since mastered stealth, but this was something new, something that even they couldn't replicate. His mind raced, trying to figure out how the humans had acquired such a weapon. The answer, however, eluded him. Meanwhile, the human fleet, coordinated and precise, continued to press the Empire's forces. Ships darted in and out of the Empire's firing range, slipping between shots with uncanny precision. Each attack from the humans seemed to land exactly where it would do the most damage. The Dreadfire shook as another bolt from a human ship struck its lower hull. Shields flared, but the impact was still significant. "Shields holding steady, sir," one of the officers reported, But Vanter could hear the concern in her voice. "We need to take them down now," Vanter growled. "Prepare the interdiction pulse. Let's see how they deal with this." The Dreadfire was equipped with a powerful pulse weapon designed to disable enemy ships' engines and weapon systems. The pulse would create a temporary disruption in the human fleet's advanced technology, rendering them vulnerable to a final strike. It was their only chance to turn the tide of battle. Firing pulse in 3, 2, 1. The pulse shot out from the Dreadfire in a brilliant wave of energy, rippling across space and toward the human fleet. Vanter watched eagerly, waiting for the pulse to disrupt their cloaking shields and technology. But to his surprise, the humans didn't falter. Their ships continued to glide through space as if nothing had changed. "They're unaffected," one of the officers exclaimed. "How is that possible?" Vanter clenched his jaw in frustration. The pulse had been designed to disable any ship in its path, especially one that relied on advanced technology like the humans. Yet the humans were still fighting as if nothing had changed. His mind snapped to one possible conclusion. "It's not their technology," Vanter muttered to himself. "It's their tactics." As he analyzed the battle, something began to emerge, an uncomfortable truth. The human fleet wasn't just surviving. They were outthinking the Empire at every turn. Their movements were deliberate, almost calculated, as if they knew every move the Empire was going to make before it even happened. It wasn't just the weapons or the technology that was giving them an edge, it was their strategy. Vanter's hand tightened around the armrest of his command chair. He had underestimated the humans. They weren't some ragtag resistance force. They were organized, disciplined, and driven by something far stronger than technology alone. They were fighting for survival, for the future of their species. His thoughts were interrupted by a loud crash as the Dreadfire rocked once more, the impact sending officers stumbling across the room. On the screen, a human ship emerged from the smoke, its shields barely holding up, but its weapons still intact. "What was that hit?" Vanter demanded, staring at the image of the human ship. One of the officers looked at him in disbelief. "Sir, that ship, it hit us with a direct hit from a weapon we've never seen before. It's not like any human technology we've encountered. The blast seemed to drain our shields completely." Vanter's eyes widened. They had used a weapon that was beyond the scope of what the Empire believed humanity capable of. This was not just another ship-to-ship exchange. This was the beginning of something far more dangerous. They're not just defending themselves. They're pushing back, Vanter realized aloud, a sense of dread creeping into his mind. Suddenly, another transmission from Admiral Carter came through, this time on a secure channel. The face of the human commander was cold, unyielding, yet there was an undeniable resolve in his eyes. "You've underestimated us, General," Carter said, his voice steady. "This war isn't about who has the better technology. It's about who is willing to fight for what's right. And you've forgotten what it means to be human." The transmission cut off abruptly, but the words lingered in Vanter's mind. For the first time, doubt began to creep in. Could the Empire really win this fight, or had the humans found a way to tip the scales in their favor? Vanter watched as his officers scrambled to manage the damage to the Dreadfire. Outside, the battle raged on. The Empire's fleet locked in a desperate struggle against a foe they couldn't seem to understand. This was no longer just a battle for control. This was a battle for survival. And Vanter was beginning to wonder if his empire would be the one to fall. A strategy unseen. General Vanter paced back and forth in the dimly lit command room of the Dreadfire, his thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. How had the humans managed to stay one step ahead? Their weapons were different, their tactics were unlike anything the Empire had ever seen, and now they were more than a nuisance. They were a true threat. "Report," Vanter snapped, his voice sharp. An officer scrambled to respond. "Sir, the human ships are showing no signs of slowing down. We've lost another cruiser in the outer ring. Their precise strikes continue to cripple our vessels, and we can't maintain the formation. They're picking us off one by one." Vanter clenched his fists. This wasn't just an ordinary enemy. They had been blindsided by a foe that fought with a level of ingenuity that the Empire had never before encountered. It wasn't just about overwhelming firepower. The humans were using their brains in ways that Vanter couldn't have predicted. Send a fleet-wide message. We need to fall back and regroup. If we don't regain control soon, we'll be wiped out, Vanter ordered, trying to regain some semblance of order in the chaos. As he turned back to face the battle map, something caught his attention. A human ship had moved into position, quietly drifting between his fleet and the coordinates of a critical Imperial command post. Vanter's eyes narrowed. This was no coincidence. The humans were luring them into a trap. They had anticipated this move. A low growl escaped his lips. They know exactly where we're weakest. Vanter had seen a lot in his years of service in the Empire's military, but he had never encountered a fleet that operated like this. These humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were playing the long game, always thinking 2, 3 steps ahead. It felt like they were always a move away from victory, while the Empire struggled to keep up. His mind snapped to another thought. Can we still detect their ships? Are they using cloaking technology again? No, sir, came the quick response. They're using some sort of countermeasure that disrupts our sensors. We can't detect their movements unless they're within range of our targeting systems. Then we need to fight blind, Vanter muttered, his mind racing. They were outgunned, outmaneuvered, and now their tracking systems were useless. But it wasn't too late. There had to be a way to turn this around. Vanter's gaze shifted back to the human fleet. There was something deeply unsettling about their calm. Despite the chaos of the battle, the human ships seemed to be in perfect harmony, each ship moving as though it was part of a larger puzzle, every piece fitting perfectly into place. They were organized and relentless. They're not fighting like an empire, Vanter whispered to himself, his voice full of realization. They're fighting like a family. A sudden, loud alarm broke his thoughts. A new wave of human ships had entered the battle, an unexpected force that had come out of nowhere. These ships were smaller, but they carried the same relentless spirit as the rest of the human fleet. Where did they come from? One of the officers asked. We've detected no prior movement from their coordinates, another officer replied, her voice tense. These ships appear out of thin air. Vanter's eyes widened. The humans were pulling resources from places they hadn't anticipated. It was clear now. Every move they made was deliberate. They were setting the Empire up for a final devastating blow. Prepare for an all-out assault, Vanter ordered, his voice determined. We'll take the fight to them. No more playing their game. We strike now, before they can set their next trap. But the words felt hollow. He knew it wasn't that simple. The Empire had one advantage, the overwhelming firepower of their fleet. But the humans had proven time and time again that they could turn the tables in the blink of an eye. Vanter clenched his jaw. He was no stranger to difficult battles. But this was different. The humans weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting for something far greater. They were fighting for the survival of their people, their families, their very existence. And that kind of determination couldn't be easily crushed. General, the communications officer interrupted his thoughts. We've received a message from Admiral Carter. Vanter's face tightened. He knew what was coming. The human admiral had been taunting him throughout the battle, sending transmission after transmission, each one more infuriating than the last. The officer hit a button, and the screen flickered to life. The face of Admiral Carter appeared on the screen, his expression calm but resolute. General Vanter, Carter said, his voice steady, it seems you've underestimated the power of humanity once again. Your empire is falling apart, piece by piece, and you're running out of time. If you want to save your fleet, I suggest you surrender now. Vanter's heart raced as he fought to keep his composure. Carter's words cut deep, too deep. It wasn't just about the battle now. It was about the very survival of the Empire. But could he really surrender? Could he admit defeat after so many years of conquest? The thought gnawed at him, but he didn't have time to dwell on it. The human fleet was still coming. And if Vanter didn't act now, the Empire could lose everything. "I'll never surrender," Vanter spat, his voice full of defiance. "We'll see who survives this day." As the transmission cut off, Vanter's mind raced. He needed to find a way to counter the human strategy before it was too late. The turning tide. The sound of clashing steel and the roar of laser fire echoed through the corridors of the Dreadfire, but General Vanter hardly noticed it. His mind was consumed with the realization that they were losing, not just the battle, but the war itself. The human fleet had thrown everything they had into this battle. Each ship, from the smallest fighter to the massive warships, seemed to move with one purpose, one goal: to defeat the Galactic Empire. And they were doing it. Slowly but surely, they were pushing the Empire back. Vanter stood at the tactical command station, eyes locked on the holographic map of the battlefield. It was chaos. His ships were scattered, their formations in disarray. The Empire's advanced fleet, once thought to be the strongest in the galaxy, was being torn apart by the human forces. "General," a voice interrupted his thoughts. "The Sovereign is reporting a full breach. We can't hold our position any longer." "How long?" Vanter barked, his voice tight with frustration. "Less than 5 minutes," came the reply. Vanter clenched his fists. The Sovereign was one of the Empire's flagship vessels, an immense warship that was supposed to be invincible. Yet, it was on the brink of destruction. And that wasn't the only loss. The Empire's once mighty fleet was disintegrating before his eyes, one ship at a time. He turned, his eyes searching the faces of his officers, all of whom seemed to be waiting for him to act, to give them something, anything, that might turn the tide of this battle. But Vanter was out of options. The humans had played their cards perfectly, outsmarting them at every turn. Every attempt to gain the upper hand had been met with a counter that left the Empire more vulnerable than ever. "General Vanter," a voice from the communications desk broke through his thoughts again. "We've intercepted another human transmission. They're demanding our surrender." The words stung like a slap across the face. The audacity of these humans. They had the nerve to demand that the mighty Galactic Empire surrender to them. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The Empire had crushed countless civilizations, extinguished entire species in the name of order and control. And yet here they were, fighting tooth and nail to preserve their existence. "Put the transmission through," Vanter growled. The face of Admiral Carter appeared on the screen, his expression calm, almost too calm. "General Vanter," Carter said, his voice smooth, "I think it's time you consider your options. The Empire's forces are scattered, and your fleet is in full retreat. You're running out of time. We've won this battle. Now you have two choices: surrender or face complete annihilation." Vanter's blood boiled. He wanted to scream at Carter, to tell him that the Empire never surrendered, that it would never bend to the will of these insolent humans. But he knew better. The humans weren't bluffing. They had outwitted them, outlasted them, and now they were on the brink of victory. "You've underestimated us for too long, General," Carter continued. "Your empire has no place in this galaxy anymore. It's time for you to leave, before we make you." The transmission cut off before Vanter could respond, leaving him in the cold silence of his own thoughts. He turned back to the tactical map, his mind racing. Was it too late to fight back? Was it possible to recover from this disaster? As he stood there, contemplating his next move, an officer approached, her face pale. "General, we've lost contact with the Dreadfire's rear command ship. It's gone." Vanter's heart sank. That was the last straw. The Empire's forces were collapsing around him. He had no more ships left to command, no more options to try. His fleet was on the verge of annihilation, and the human fleet showed no signs of letting up. For the first time in his career, Vanter felt the crushing weight of defeat. He had been trained to lead, to conquer, but this was something else. He had underestimated humanity's strength, their resourcefulness, their will to survive. And now it was too late. "General, we're receiving new orders from Imperial Command," one of his officers said, her voice trembling. Vanter looked up at her, his face grim. "What are they?" They're calling for immediate retreat," she said. "The Empire has issued an order to evacuate all remaining forces from the sector. They've decided that the war is lost." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Vanter couldn't believe it. The Empire had never, ever considered retreating. It was unthinkable. But now, it seemed like their only option. "I will not retreat," Vanter said, his voice quiet but firm. "We will fight until the very end." But deep down, he knew the truth. The Empire's time was over. The humans had won. The fall of the Empire. The galaxy was quiet. For the first time in centuries, the sound of battle had ceased. The once thriving, mighty galactic empire, the very force that had dominated the stars for generations, was now a shadow of its former self. In the aftermath of the battle, General Vanter stood alone on the bridge of his warship, staring out into the void of space. The fleet that had once been a symbol of invincibility lay in ruins. The Empire's greatest warships were burning, drifting aimlessly through space like broken shells. Only a few ships had managed to escape, retreating into the unknown corners of the galaxy to lick their wounds. But it was over. The Empire had fallen, and the humans had emerged victorious. Vanter's mind still raced with the events that had transpired. The sudden appearance of the mysterious human fleet had caught them off guard, but it wasn't just their numbers or their strength that had been their undoing. It was the sheer unpredictability of humanity. Every move the Empire made, the humans countered with something they couldn't anticipate. For once, the Empire had been outsmarted, outgunned, and overwhelmed. The tactical genius of Admiral Carter, the cold precision of the human fleet, and their unwavering determination had been too much for the Empire to handle. Every ship, every soldier, every battle seemed to favor the humans. They had not only survived the overwhelming odds, but they had triumphed. Vanter had never seen anything like it. As the last of his officers filed off the bridge, Vanter was left in solitude, his thoughts consuming him. He had failed. The Empire had failed. And in its place, humanity now stood as the true power of the galaxy. "General," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was his communications officer, who had been unusually silent since the battle. "There's a transmission coming in. It's from Admiral Carter." "Put it through," Vanter said, his voice low. The hologram of Admiral Carter flickered to life before him. He was calm, even as the galaxy around him seemed to crumble. "General Vanter," Carter said, his voice steady, almost sympathetic. "I think it's time we had a conversation about the future. The Empire has made its last stand. The galaxy is changing, and whether you want to accept it or not, humanity is here to stay." Vanter's fists clenched at his sides. How could the humans speak so easily of victory, when so many had fallen? But Carter's words were not without merit. The Empire's reign was over, and the universe was shifting in ways no one could have foreseen. "I'm willing to offer you a choice," Carter continued. "You and any survivors of the Empire can join us. Help rebuild what was lost. Or if you refuse, we'll continue on our path without you. Either way, the galaxy is ours now." Vanter didn't answer immediately. He stood there, thinking about everything the Empire had once been. The endless battles, the triumphs, the control they had wielded. But it was all a lie. They had relied on fear, on force, on domination. Humanity had shown him the power of something else: unity, ingenuity, and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. "Why?" Vanter finally asked, his voice hoarse. "Why would you offer us anything? After everything we've done, the destruction we've caused?" Carter's face softened. "Because, General, we don't need to repeat the past. We have a chance to make something better, but only if we work together." Vanter didn't know if he could trust Carter or if humanity's offer was genuine. But deep down, He knew that fighting the humans further would only lead to more death and destruction. Perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy had a chance at something new, a future where war and conquest didn't rule. "I'll consider your offer," Vanter said, his voice steady. And with that, the last remnant of the Galactic Empire finally conceded to the rising power of humanity. The galaxy, forever changed by the appearance of a single, mysterious human fleet, now looked toward a new era. The Empire had fallen, and in its place, humanity's triumph had reshaped the future of all species. Would the galaxy embrace the peace that the humans offered? Or would old habits die hard, and the cycle of conflict continue? Only time would tell.